Hope y'all are doing okay. Hope y'all having a great week, and welcome to my channel. Here on my channel, I talk about my weight loss journey. I do reviews, and I do what I eat, and I record my workouts. So if anything that seems of interest to you, go ahead and check out the rest of my videos, and let's get right into it. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm gonna talk about birth control, periods, doctors, things like that. So if you don't want to hear that stuff right now, it's okay, I understand. Go ahead and click off this video and go check out some of my other videos. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because yesterday I had went to the doctors and I got the Neoplex birth control out of my arm. And I wanted to talk about just a little bit about my experience with the doctors and birth control, and maybe it can help someone else out. So when I first started birth control, I was around 16 or 17, around that age. And to avoid pregnancy, I needed to be on birth control. So the first place I went to, it was like a Planned Parenthood, but it wasn't called Planned Parenthood, but it was kind of like a clinic like that where I didn't need my parents there. I didn't need like their authorization or anything. I could just go in by myself. And the first doctor I met, to be honest, I really can't remember if it was a male or a female. Like, that's how like little of the experience had an impact on me, that I don't really remember who the doctor was. All I remember was that I had pretty much three options. Either I can get the birth control pill, I can get the depot shot, or I can get this little thing that goes inside the vagina and it just stays in there for like either 5 or 10 years. I can't remember exactly which one. And so when those were my options were given to me, I was like, well, I can do the pill, because with the pill, according to that doctor that told me at the time, you have to take it every single day at the exact same time. And if you mess up, like, it can really mess up like your cycle and the birth control. So I was like, yeah, I'm the type of person that I can't remember to do that every day at the exact same time. So that option wasn't for me. And I definitely didn't want something inside my vagina. So I was like, okay, I'll just do the depot shot. And the depot shot is just where you get a shot in your arm, and everything months you have to come back. And if you stay on the shot, you have to continuously keep doing it. So at the time as a teenager, and I want to say beforehand, I have talked about this, but never in detail. But my period, ever since I was little, has always been irregular, meaning that I don't have a, like, how most people who have a vagina who have periods, they have their like start date each month, last week or a couple of days, and that's it. For me, no, it always came when it wanted to, and it stayed how long it wanted to. I remember for a whole year, I didn't even have a period. And that was before I got on birth control. So, I was just always irregular. And I told the doctor that, but like I said, I don't even remember if the doctor was a male or female. I just remember telling them that stuff and them not caring. And then whenever I got the shots again, I wouldn't see a doctor. I would just see a nurse. And so that was my experience. So with the depot shot, however, it was okay at first, but I realized very quickly right away that my hormones were crazy. I was always moody, always just like not in a good state, and it made me gain weight rapidly. I mean, of course, besides me getting out of the restrictive environment and going to a different kind of environment and eating whatever I wanted to, but like when I was on the depot shot, it just seemed like I was always hungry. So definitely my first year on the shot, I think that's when I gained a lot of my weight. So I think I was only about on it for like a year, maybe a year and a half. I don't really remember. I was like, I'm like, enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I went to go see another doctor at an actual like hospital, like an actual clinic. And when I talked to that doctor, she was a female, but again, it seemed like she didn't really care or take my concerns like realistically. All these doctors that when I told them about my irregular periods and stuff, they didn't really seem to have an answer to it. They just played it off as normal. And so I'm the patient, they're the doctor, so I assume they know more than I do. So I was like, okay, well, if the doctors are saying this is regular, this is just something I just will have to deal the rest of my life with, and it is what it is. And so this time around, she had offered me the Nexoplan. And honestly, I don't remember if this was even an option the first time I went, but I don't remember even talking about it or it even being brought up. So I don't know if when I was like around 16 or 17, if the Nexoplan was an actual method, or years later they finally developed it. I'm not quite sure. But when she said that, it's just something that goes in your arm, it stays in there for 3 years, and then you can either take it out or put it back in. And I was like, okay, like, you're telling me I just have to put something in my arm and like not worry about it? Like, okay, right on. And the first 3 years I had with it were great. The 3 years that I was on it though, I only had a period one time a month in a year. So 1 year I only had one period, like for the whole year. But they said, yeah, like that was normal with the Nexaplan. Like it's gonna make you stop having your period. I mean, you'll still have the symptoms of a period, but you just. And again, according to the doctor, they say like, yeah, that's normal. Everyone is different. Everybody reacts differently to the birth control. But yeah, for me, if I only had, you know, a period once a year, like they said that was okay. So I was like, okay, cool. And at that point, like, you know, I still had a lot of that weight, but I didn't realize I was gaining anymore. And I feel like my hormones and like my emotions were more leveled out this time around. So I was like, okay, awesome. So when it was time to get it out, I was like, hell yeah, I'm putting another one in. Because I don't want babies. I don't want kids anytime soon. Because like I said, I was still like a teenager at this time. So I was like, not for me. So the second time I go do it at the same hospital. And I think it was the same doctor. To be honest, I'm not really sure who it was or not. But the second time around, it was a horrible experience. Only because, like, I don't remember the first time as hurting as much as the second time. But this time, they just put some, like, numbing cream on my arm. You know, they made the little incision. They took it out and put it in. And like I said, this time, it was horrible because I felt everything. Like, guys, it was so freaking painful that I even started crying a little bit. Because, like, you know, it's something that, like, they still have to, like, you know, cut your arm, take something out, put it in, and I can feel the whole thing coming out and put it in. I'm sorry if that's really graphic for you. But, yeah, it was just not a fun time. But I was like, okay, whatever. I got it in. I'm good. I'm Gucci. So, for the first year, because this is my second round with it. So, for my first year, it went okay. And then, last year, if you guys, you can see my other videos, I've talked about it. My period wouldn't go away. Like, constantly each week I was bleeding, and then yeah, some weeks would be lighter than others, but I was still like bleeding, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And me, I'm the type of person, like, I don't see or go to the doctors until things are like really bad, or like, you know, I can't take it anymore, because that's just my experiences with doctors have just never been a good one. So I avoid doctors as much as I can. Like, I know that sounds sad, but that's just my experience with it. So, you know, it was going on for 5 months, and I was like, okay, like, something's up. Like, what is going on? Like, you know, like this can't be normal. Like, possibly this can't be normal. And so I went to this doctor and I told her everything, like my whole history and stuff. And then she's the one that pretty much told me, like, hey, I'm pretty sure you have PCOS. And that's when she introduced PCOS to me, and like, she was telling me, like, you know, I have like little cysts outside of my ovaries, so that's why I don't ovulate regularly. But she's like, but if you have the birth control, it shouldn't be making you bleeding as much like that. And then she was like surprised too, like when I told her, I was like, well, all the doctors I've ever told you, they told me I was normal. And she's like, and they never like ran tests on you or anything? And I was like, no, I mean, everyone said it was normal and that I was fine, and just to keep living life as normal. And then this is the doctor that has recommended me to take all the tests, because with PCOS, you can't be 100% diagnosed with it unless you have an ultrasound done, or if you have like the certain specific blood work done to, you know, confirm it. So she's the one, okay, hey, like, get these tests done, but I'm pretty sure you have PCOS. Because I think what people don't really know about PCOS is because it's also known as polycystic ovary syndrome. And as I mentioned, you just have little cysts that grow inside your ovaries. And so your eggs, like, the cysts are like your eggs, because they don't really come out of you normally. They like go up and stuff instead of coming out of your, like, you know, your vagina. And for some people, it's more severe than others. Like, for other people, it can like grow into, what she said, they were like fibroids, and like they can like grow, and like that's when some people have to have like a hysterectomy. And a hysterectomy is where they can remove like your ovaries, or part of your ovaries and your uterus. And she was just explaining things like that to me, and she was explaining to me that there's not a cure for PCOS, but you can, like, you know, reduce the symptoms a little bit by losing weight, living an active lifestyle, and like being more careful about the foods you eat. And this is the first time like a doctor has ever taken me seriously. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, I told her my concerns and she actually listened. Like, who would have known like a doctor like actually does that? Like I said, This is probably the bare minimum, to be honest. Like, you know, a doctor, that's what a doctor is there. Like, you're supposed to tell them your concerns, and they're supposed to actually listen and, like, you know, just trying to think of something, not just be like, brush it off and be like, okay, well, you're normal. And the reason you can gain weight so easily and it's so harder to lose because you're insulin resistant. And what I mean by that is that you don't really have hunger cues, because since your hormones are off, you're constantly always thinking you're hungry when you're really not, but it's because, you know, there's an imbalance there. And then she also told me with that, your testosterone levels are higher than a normal woman. So that's why for me, like, I am extremely hairy. Like, I have like hair all over my neck, like, you know, right here on the side of my face, my arms, like I have hair on my shoulders, I have hair on my stomach, my legs, my thighs, my toes, my back, just like everywhere. But when she told me all this stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it all makes sense now. Like, there is a reason why, you know, I eat regular. There is a reason why I have so much body hair. I feel like more than the average human. This is why it was so hard for me to gain weight. This is why I feel like the first time on the double shot, like, my hormones were like just super messed up, because I was constantly hungry all the time. It felt like I was never satisfied with my food. And just for once, it felt nice to be taken seriously. It was nice to put a name to something that I had. And she said with polycystic ovary syndrome, it would be harder to have kids. That's just the reality of it. She told me that when I was ready to have kids, though, even though there wasn't a cure, there was hormonal drugs that we could take. She even recommended that I could be on the pill birth control, because what the pill birth control is supposed to do is supposed to regulate your period so you can start having like a normal cycle as much as possible. But she said, you know, not to worry about that stuff until I was ready. So when I first saw her, like, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, like, just thank you so much, because this whole time, like, I thought that was normal, and really I wasn't. And I'm just very thankful for my doctor now, because like I said, she is awesome and she's amazing. And I'm so glad that I found her, because it's very hard for me to trust people. And so when I was going like to this appointment, it was actually funny, because when I got there, my first time meeting her, she's an OBGYN. So meaning she delivers babies as well. And so my first appointment, I got there and they're like, oh my gosh, like, she's not in, like, she had an emergency, she had to go do a delivery, we can reschedule because it's gonna be like a 2-hour wait. And I was like, well, is it okay if I wait? And they were like, sure. And like I said, and I think I mentioned this in the first video when I talked about it, because I'm the type of person, like, if I knew I would have left that day, I would have not came back and just like sucked it up, because that's just my mentality. Like, if I'm already there, like, I want to just get it done and over with. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait 2 hours, whatever. And it ended up being worth the wait, because like I said, I found an amazing doctor. Now fast forward to yesterday. So like I said, the Neoplex is 3 years, and so this year it was time to take it out. And I was like, oh, I'm dreading it, because as you recall me saying the first time, the second time I went to go take it out and put it back in, it was freaking painful. Like, it, like, if you can imagine feeling something coming in at your arm, like, it is not a fun time at all. But I was like, but you know what, like, I trust this doctor, I like this doctor, so I'm just gonna suck it up, and I need to get it out because it's about to expire, so I don't have a choice at this point. But you know, I was pushing it off as long as I could, because I was just dreading it. And so, you know, I called them up, I'm like, hey, like, I need to get my birth control out, and they're like, okay, sure, make an appointment. So I show up yesterday, super nervous at foot, because like I said, I just knew what was coming. And so, you know, I'm waiting, and they call me back, they take my vitals and all that stuff, and I'm pretty sure my blood pressure was high because how nervous I was. And then I go in there, and I don't know, just her energy, just her vibe was just so welcoming and so comforting. And then I even started telling her that, because I just had to tell her like how appreciative I was for her, for everything she's done for me and for listening. And she's just like, well, yeah, like, I'm glad, but you know, that's my job. And I was like, yeah, I know, but it just seems like people don't do there. And I, you know, I explained to her a little bit more, like the other doctors I've seen and stuff. And she's like, yeah, you know, but you know, when it comes to doctors, sometimes the first doctor you meet's not gonna match up with you. And she's like, it's kind of like a personality like test. Like, you have to find someone that you're compatible with. And I was like, yeah, I totally get that. So I told her, I was like, oh man, like, this is gonna hurt a lot, huh? And then she's like, hurt? And I was like, yeah, like, the last time I did it, like, you know, they just put some numbing cream and I felt the whole thing. And y'all should have seen her face. And I told her that. She's like, they just put numbing cream? And I was like, yes. And she's like, they didn't give you a shot? I was like, no. And she was like, well, I've always given my patients a shot because it's really painful. And I was like, yeah, it was. The numbing cream didn't do much. And she's like, well, I can't believe like they did that. Like, you didn't say anything? And I was like, well, no, because, you know, they were the doctors and nurses and I'm just the patient, so I assume they know more than I do. And she's just like, wow, you're really brave for doing that. I was like, well, I didn't have a choice. And she's like, yeah, no, this time you're not gonna feel it. We're gonna like numb you up so that way you don't feel anything because it's really painful. And I was like, yeah, tell me about it. And so, you know, she was great. She took it out and, you know, she bandaged me up and everything, and it was good. And then she was like, well, do you have any questions? And of course I did. I asked her, like, you know, how long it would get out of my system and this and that. And then she's like, well, usually after a month, it'll be out of your system. So, you know, she said, if you don't want to have kids still, like, you know, just be careful. Because she had asked me if I wanted to put it back in, but I told her no. And that's when she asked me, well, were you planning to have kids? I was like, no, not anytime soon still. But I was just, you know, tired of being on birth control. And she told me, like, since I've been on birth control for so long, like, it's okay for my body to take a break from it. But if I ever decided to be back on it, like, that wouldn't be a problem either. And then she even asked me about the test, and she's like, well, have you ever got those tests done? Like, I never got the results back. And I was like, no. I always like put things off. For myself personally, I just always put things off because life happens, things happen, and like, and then I know I should put like my health first, but I didn't consider this as a priority like I should. And she was like, no, like, that's totally fine, like, I understand. But she, you know, she was like, but, you know, without the test and the sonogram, I can't like 100% diagnose you with PCOS, even though I think you have it. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. But she's like, but whenever you're ready, like, please, like, let me know so that way I can go over the test results with you. And I was just like, you guys, like, she like cared enough to ask me about this stuff, like, you know, because I was just there to remove it. She didn't have to ask me about the test. And well, I mean, I guess she did because, you know, that's a doctor. But in my past experiences, I've had doctors that didn't care, who I tell them stuff and like they wouldn't remember, or they just didn't bother to like ask me about it. But yeah, I'm just very grateful for my doctor. I am grateful that I met her in the time that I did. And granted, when I met those first doctors, I was younger, I was a teenager, but I feel like even if anything, that should be where they, like, you know, take the initiative even more and educate me. But like, they really didn't. Like, I learned more from her in the few visits that I've seen her compared to all those doctors I've seen, especially when I was taking my dental shot. Like, you know, I barely even saw the doctor. And I know, and she's like, yeah, and if you have any questions, like, call us anytime, like, I'll answer anything you have. And it just feels good to have a good doctor. And I know a lot of people struggle with that, finding a doctor that actually hears you out and doesn't just brush you off. And for that, I have to say, like, I know how frustrating it is. I know how like scary and annoying it can be. Like, okay, here we go, like another doctor. Like, are they just gonna brush me off again? Or are they actually gonna listen to me? And even though it might take some time, like, you'll find a doctor that listens to you. And some people are fortunate, you know, they find their like doctor right away. So, you know, if you feel like something's wrong with your body, keep pushing for yourself, keep advocating for yourself, like, make them listen. Like, I told myself this time around when, you know, when I first met this doctor, I was like, no, like, I'm gonna make her listen. I'm gonna make her listen to all, like, you know, my concerns. And thankfully, I didn't have to advocate for myself that much because she actually heard me the first time. But you know your body more than anybody else. So if you feel like something's wrong, if you feel like things are not adding up, like, please push for yourself. Please advocate for yourself, because you'll find someone that will listen and take you seriously and be like, okay, let's run some tests. Let's figure it out. Like, you know, let's solve the problem together. So that's been my experience with doctors. And like I said, the birth control, the dental shot, trash, hated it. The next plan, the first, like they said, the first go around was like amazing. The second go around, not so much. But like I've said, even though I got the birth control out, I just wanted to get it out. I just didn't want anything else in my body. No, Oscar and I still don't plan to have kids anytime soon. Like, in the next 5 years, I do not see me with kids, because we just have so much we want to do, so much to see. And not saying that kids are going to stop that, but let's be realistic. If you have a kid, the focus isn't on you anymore, it's on them. Like, you pretty much have to give your life to your kids. Well, I would assume so. So no, we're not having kids anytime soon. We're happy with our fur babies. They're plenty enough. Like, trust me, if you have dogs, cats, pets in general, they're a handful. But I'm grateful for them, and I love my babies. And if you're thinking about birth control, it is kind of a trial and error. Like, unfortunately, that's just how it is. And I've known people, you know, who've had the same reaction to the dipple shot as me, and I've had some people who are on the Nexaplan that they hated it. They got it out as soon as possible because they were just over it. So, you know, you have to, you know, talk to your doctor and, you know, try to figure out what's best for you. And hopefully you'll have a good doctor that, you know, that explains every little thing to you, so that way you have all the information and you can make a decision on your own. You know, and if you're thinking about birth control, because, you know, because birth control can be used, like I said, to help regulate periods, it can help for other things, not just, you know, to prevent pregnancy. Like, do it for you. You do what's best for you. Like, don't let anyone shame you about it, because I know there's people out there who still see birth control as, like, you know, a bad thing or like a sin or whatever. But no, it's not. You're just taking all the precautions you can to take care of you and your body. Birth control is not talked about enough, and it can definitely help out a lot of people, especially for teenagers who, you know, want to, you know, have sex, but, you know, are ashamed about having birth control. Like, and there are places like Planned Parenthood, the places that I went to, where you can go without your parents and, you know, just get yourself protected. And I know I said that I didn't have the great experience at the Planned Parenthood, but, like, you know, they never like shamed me or anything. They never made me feel bad about wanting birth control. So with this video, I hope I can inform someone just a little bit more and make them think a little bit more about birth control and what they want to do with their lives. Again, this is just my experience. I am not a doctor. I am not a professional. You should do your own research and talk to your own doctors. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you liked it, please give it a like. If you didn't like it, let me know down in the comments why you didn't like it. Share it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, it's okay. I understand. You have to check me out, you know, check out my vibes, you know, so that's okay. Go ahead and check out the rest of my videos, because you might be surprised and find something that you like. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.